So today I'm gonna be putting the Stagg 22A from last year up against the 24A from this year. Now, the 22A was until very recently the best, not the best, but my favorite bottle in or the bottle that I like the most from my collection. And you can see like in my previous videos, like I've even compared it to the George T. Stagg from 2023 and the Russell's 15. Like I think I've changed my mind on that. I do think the Russell's 15 has like grown on me quite a bit and is now, I think, presently the my favorite bottle from my collection. However, this is still, you know, one that I reach out to a lot. Unfortunately, since I don't have much left. But yeah, we're gonna put it up against the 24A, which I don't like as much. At least that's it's the impression I have. Now, have I compared them like side by side? No. So that's what we're gonna do here, right? Just putting these two against each other and hopefully, figure out which one is the most interesting. Of course, it goes without saying that they're both, phenomenal, exceptional bottles. So on the nose, what do I get here? I get it's very tangy, right? Very cherry forward, dark cherry, some peach as well, very sweet, like a sweet, brighter sort of fruit that sort of, this is, I believe, the same mash bill as the H. Taylor, so it's no surprise that they sort of resemble each other a little bit. But this has, of course, a darker profile, right? So as you would expect, you get, some cherry, some leather, and, some oak on the nose. Some tobacco too, and some coffee. This is, by the way, I believe I've said it, but the 22A, right? So now let's see what we get on the palate. But overall, just to say that on the nose, it's not one note, right? It's very very intricate, very complex, which as much as I like, the H. Taylor, foolproof, the single barrels, etc. I like them a lot, right? But I do feel that you get more to unpack, right? More peels, more layers to peel, you know, on this bourbon here. So the first thing I will say is that compared to the George T. Stagg, which I just actually sold very recently, the 2023 George T. Stagg, this thing is sweet through and through, right? I mean, and that's to be expected, right? Like George T. Stagg is much older, so you do get some astringency, some it's a little tannic towards the finish. This thing, no, it's like a cherry vanilla, uh, you know, bomb. I don't like when folks say the word bomb because I don't. But in this case, it is kind of a bomb, right? Because one thing that Stag is known for is it's sort of brute force, right? But let's try to unpack this a little more. So another thing that, of course, you will notice both in, with this bottle and the George T. Stagg. I've been thinking, looking back and reminiscing on my experience with the George T. Stagg is that the proof is very, very noticeable, right? So it does not drink lower than it is. Um, so the mid palate, I would say, is a bit overpowered by the proof, right? So that you, as we said before, brute force, you feel the impact. It's meant to be impactful, right? It's meant to be a sort of you know memorable, noticeable sort of experience. And so the undertones are a bit muted, I would say, right? Like on the mid palate, it all comes back and becomes. Uh, I will get to the finish, but midway through, right, halfway through, I guess, what you get is some brown sugar, some cinnamon, a little bit of cherry, right, still there. But I think those like brown, colored flavors, right, are the most prominent in the on the mid palate. And then the finish, which is very long, right? And warms your chest. You can feel your tongue, still tingling for a while after the bourbon's gone. Um, the most noticeable thing is, the vanilla. It's very, very creamy, right? Very creamy, um, like custard-like sort of vanilla. Now let's pour the 24A and let's see how it stacks up. So the 24A is, I believe, more is definitely brighter. I may be mistaken, but I think someone on WhiskeyTube actually said that it's much closer. The 24A is much closer to the profile of an E.H. Taylor, and I can see that, right? Even though it's not as fruit driven, right, as an E.H. Taylor, it's much less dark than the 22A, right? 22A is, more leathery, right? The tobacco, you can smell the tobacco on the nose. This is uh, much like, you know like a dessert wine, right? Uh, that's the first, impact. That's in the vanilla here, right? Whereas the vanilla was much more prominent on the finish in the case of the 22A. 24A, you can, the vanilla is, jumping out at you, right, on the nose. And then, strangely enough, this thing is a lot brighter, as I was saying, as the 22A on the nose, but then the palate really takes you down this, you know, darker, the flavors again are much more, you know, uh, you get someone, I was just thinking of someone's review, so I think, your drinking buddy, right? Maybe, I don't know who it was. Anyway, someone said that, dates were what came to mind. Dates and I was gonna say figs, no, but dates. I think because they're, of course, a more like, or at least the images that come to my mind, right? Like they're a more they're darker, but also like a fruit that reminds you, right? At least, like, of course, dates. Is that correct? I don't know. Dry. The word slips my mind now, but um, syrupy molasses, right? Dark molasses, dates um, are what comes to mind when you get it on the palate. Um, it's in the finish, right? The finish is a little drier than the 22A. And I was going to say that this is maybe the most important point, right? You don't get any, and this is, I believe, what someone else also said. You don't get as much cherry. This is from Breaking. I'm sorry. From This is a review that I read on Breaking Bourbon, right? Breaking Bourbon, I think, mentions the date note, and it says that it's off profile for a stag because it goes a lot more into that territory of, like, those kinds of fruits, dates, figs, etc. And the cherry isn't really as much there as it normally is, right? um, and I would say it's definitely not as sweet, right? The 22A, very sweet, right? It's not really tannic. The finish, it doesn't get drier, right, as it goes through your palate. However, now that I have waited a few more seconds, I am getting like a warmer, uh, you know, let's say a warmer, a greater sensation of warmth, right, and overall impact, right, on the finish than maybe I did with a 22A, right? So even though it's not as sweet, right, and it is a little drier, the finish is still very good, right? So let's rate them now, and let's wrap this up. But yeah, the nose on the 24A, very perfumey, right? Very, as I said bright before. It's very, very perfumey. Um, yeah, just as I said, bright. It's a little reminiscent of flowers of some sort, right? It has that, like, it takes you out to nature in a way that the 22A doesn't, right? So maybe that's a good comparison to make. Yeah, so the finish of the 24A, the on the tongue, right? Whereas, I said before, the 22A left my tongue like tingling, uh, you know, a pleasant sensation, right? Here it's drier, right? Like the way it affects my tongue, it makes, yeah, it's not as pleasant, let's say, right? Not as much of a pleasant experience as the 22A. Although, as I was saying before, like the Kentucky hug that you get with this may be stronger, right? So it offsets that, like, negative sensation a little bit, but maybe not as not well enough. Let's put it this way, to warrant a like higher score than the 22A. So the 22A, I believe I gave it a 992 or a 90 in a past video. I don't have my notebook with me. I left it back home. when I visited last time, but I believe I give it a 90 or a 92. So I will, I believe, stand by. So meaning that if the 22A is a 90, let's say a 90, right? Like as I said at the beginning of the video, I did change my mind as to, which bourbon in my collection is the best. I do think that, you know, I've come around, and I do think the Russell's 15 is the best bottle I own. But this thing, yeah, this thing is a 90, I think, right? And I'm not even like talking, price, availability, etc. All of that will, of course, maybe impact the score. But let's say if this is a 90, the 24A is, I would say, an 85, right? It's not as good. I don't think. Yes, more it is off profile, right? Like the cherry's not there, it's not as sweet. It's a little nuttier, right? A little darker, but not in a good way, my opinion, right? Not in a good way. So I'd give it an 85. Still very good. I'm happy I got it, but it does not really, it doesn't really work as a backup for the 22A, unfortunately. But, cool. Hope you enjoy this high production, high end, video as usual. And I'll see you next time.